In today's video, we're officially presenting our final winter forecast of 2023 to 2024. Now, before we get into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description, pinned comment, and the top right corner of your screen. We do weather consulting for businesses and individuals alike. We do a lot of consulting calls, consulting emails, consulting texts, and we have an exclusive community for you guys for weather consulting. It's all for only $5 a month, and we're actually running a promotion right now for Black Friday. If you put in the code DIRECT at checkout, you will get your first month for only $1. Be sure to check it out today. Now, we are extending that Black Friday promo code through December 8th due to popular demand. You guys have been eating it up, and I cannot thank you enough. Let's get into things, and we are taking a look here at our temperature forecast. And this is actually where the most has changed throughout this entire video, so pay close attention. Warmer temperatures anticipated for the west. This is usually called a positive PNA. So warmer temperatures in the west usually extend well up into Canada. And what this will do is force colder air down into the eastern states as a result. Everything has a balance to it, including these temperature patterns. So let's keep adding to this actually. And this is the areas that we're more confident in for above normal temperatures. You can see throughout a lot of the Northwest, we do anticipate these pretty far above average temperature anomalies. Certainly, that is going to extend through a lot of the wintertime. We've already seen plenty of this throughout a lot of the fall, and we expect this to just continue straight on into December, January, and February. Again, the more warmth we see here, the more forcing of cold we will see into the eastern states. Keep that in mind as we walk through with this. Let's add the colder temperatures anomalies, and probably you haven't noticed much change yet, but keep in mind it is coming. Just stay tuned. We see warmer temperatures out west. That is the extent of the warmth, but we do expect in general below normal temperatures here for most of the central and eastern states. This is our first layer, which is our lowest confidence layer of the below normal temperature anomalies, and certainly I could see how some of these areas won't necessarily be below normal, just a majority of them will be. As we move into our final layer of the below normal temperature anomalies, now you're probably noticing a lot of change. We expected much colder temperatures throughout the summer and fall as we began to make these outlooks, and now we're backing off of that a little bit. There is some signs of, with every cool down, the warmth kind of pushing back right before we see our next cool down. And I think that's going to be enough to really sway things to be a little bit less below normal than we were originally anticipating. Now, we're pretty confident in below normal temperatures throughout the entire light blue area and darker blue area. For the most part, again, there will be some exceptions. The difference with this darker blue area is this southern jet that is going to drive storms into the eastern states. A lot of cloudiness, a lot of rainfall, and even some snowfall for a lot of these areas. And what the cloud and rain and snow does is it brings down the average temperature over a monthly period or seasonal period in this case. Because of less sun making its way through, because of more storms, because of more snow, this is going to drag those average temperatures down a bit. And that is going to be enough, I think, to make this area particularly below normal as we see these frequent storms moving by. You might notice that it's commonly colder on rainy or snowy, obviously snowy, but rainy days, cloudy days than it would be on sunny days. So if you get more of those cloudy and rainy days, obviously, when you're looking at a 30-day period, it will be colder on average in those areas than areas that see a little bit less storminess. So that's a simple way to put it. As we dive into these precipitation anomalies, we can see below normal precipitation expected throughout a lot of the Northwest, as really this would be a frequent storm track during a La Nina. We're in an El Nino, which is the exact opposite. So we're going to draw an X here because we're really not expecting that storm track to be too active. What we really expect is southern storms to move through oftentimes. So areas through the southwest into the southeast. So we see something like this being a frequent storm track, and these areas are where we expect a lot of our storms to go. Some of these will push inland and come more inland up the east coast, and that could be another pretty common storm track this upcoming winter. Let's add another layer here. We can see the second layer of below normal precipitation here for the Northwest, as again, This is an area that expects a lot of precipitation during the winter season, and most of that comes during your La Niñas, and we see this pretty scaled back during a lot of your El Niños. Again, we are in the El Niño side of things, and that's the main driving factor for this below normal corner in the northwest. Now, for our first area of above normal precipitation, we have the southwest here, where again, these storms will be moving onshore with this southern jet, and then eventually moving into the east, which we have not discussed yet. But these storms are expected to frequently move right through the southwestern area, which is going to be more precipitation, more snowfall for the Sierra Nevadas and Southern Rockies. Overall, more activity for this corner of the nation. Now, as we add our next layer, we can see we're actually pretty confident in this, as this tends to be really, really active in El Niños like we're in. So we do have our second layer of above average precipitation here for the southwest. As we move into the east, we can see that we expect up and down the east coast and back through the Gulf Coast above average activity. Again, they're going to move through the southwest, down into these Gulf states, and then up the eastern states. So you can see with this storm track in mind, it's pretty obvious why we would forecast for these types of precipitation anomalies here. I hope this makes sense. It's pretty simple, actually. It's not very complicated at all. And we usually get a lot more complicated on our monthly outlooks, and some of the other seasons are a little bit harder, like spring, summer, and fall. Winter is pretty clear cut between El Nino and La Nina oftentimes when it comes to precipitation. Makes it very, very easy. Now, as we add our second layer here, we can see we expect pretty far above average precipitation up and down the East Coast and into the Gulf states. This is actually going to be particularly active in the southeast. I didn't feel like differentiating that, but almost every storm that moves through here will be bringing impacts to Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, likely Florida, and then areas of southern Alabama and southern Mississippi. That's going to be the areas that every single storm track is going to bring some sort of impacts to. Like, for instance, oftentimes we can maybe see them first develop here as opposed to further west. That's going to exclude areas back here. And then sometimes they'll do this and then move kind of straight offshore, which is going to exclude these northeast areas as well. So it's these areas in between, again, like the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, that are going to see impacts in this case. And also in the case of a full-blown nor'easter moving from Texas through the entire Gulf and off the entire East Coast, we still see these areas included here. So the southeast is going to be the most consistent with this precipitation. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys our snowfall chance forecast from a video we made a while ago. I wanted to show this in here because this is the final official winter forecast, and I want to just give you guys all the information possible. With those temperature and precipitation anomalies in mind, we expect below average snowfall in the northwest, but not as far as below normal as you would anticipate, really, because I still think that it's going to be cold enough in those mountains to where you're going to see snowfall one way or another. If any storms move through here, it's bringing snowfall to the mountains, and I still expect quite a bit of snowfall for those areas. In the southwest, I think it's pretty clear that there will be more chance than normal for snowfall in an El Nino like this one. Very similar to the type of year that brought the Donner Party plenty of snowfall in the Sierra Nevadas. Not a very happy example there, but definitely this is the type of winter that brought that historic snowfall that snowed them in. I don't want to dive too deep into that. Pretty negative topic there. Below normal snowfall for the Great Lakes in the upper Midwest, as well as some of the Ohio Valley, pretty typical in El Ninos. This is an area that tends to do pretty well in La Ninas and not so well in El Ninos. Obviously, the Great Lakes are going to play a big role in this, and this could obviously sway things, but in general, I think the chance of snowfall is lower than normal there over the Great Lakes area. And then in the areas where this storm track is going to be persisting, we expect above normal snowfall so the entire Gulf states and the East Coast is really going to do likely well. And if not, the chance is still going to be higher. So this is a snowfall chance forecast. Keep that in mind. Chance doesn't always lead towards actual snowfall. It just means that the odds are higher. Keep that in mind as well. This in particular, this darkest blue area is interesting. In El Nino years like this one, this area tends to do really well, and it's because we get some southern sliders like this oftentimes. and areas that typically don't see very much snowfall tend to do really well on occasion. So I think the chance of some big snowfall here for the Gulf states into portions of the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic is going to be higher than typical, and probably out of anywhere in the nation, this is the area that has the highest chance compared to normal, if I had to say. Now, the overall forecast, the most exciting part of this video oftentimes, we haven't changed this one too much because my thoughts as in regards to this does not change as much as, let's say, the precipitation, snowfall, or temperatures. The overall forecast is much more of what you're going to be feeling, what's going to be much more practical, and what you might, after the winter, be saying about it. So, for instance, the Northwest, very dry. Or better yet, the Northwest very dry. Southwest is tons of storms, as we see that storm track really move through there. We see typical snow for the Rockies. Again, they're going to be cold enough for snow, so any storms that move through there are going to bring snowfall. And you probably won't notice the below normal snowfall that will come, because what's the difference between 100 inches and 120 inches? At the end of the winter, you're not going to really feel that, if that makes sense. Let's keep going, and we can see cold and snowy here to the east of the Rockies. I think that's an area that could do pretty well. Polar vortex might make an appearance this upcoming winter. Wouldn't rule it out for the upper Midwest and northern plains. Certainly has shown that there's a lot of polar air moving into the eastern states. So this has the feel of a year that would have some deeper cold than normal moving in. Arctic blasts to the south of there. Obviously, we've already seen that, and I expect that to continue. Winter battle zone here in the pink from Oklahoma all the way to the Carolinas. That is going to be where we see the battle between rain, snow, ice, mix, sleet, all of it. It's going to be very messy, oftentimes, usually not a purely snowstorm. Usually you're going to see a mix of wintry precipitations, and that is what I expect this year. Above average storms throughout the entire Gulf states and kind of the deeper south, as we have, again, those kind of southern jet storms moving through. Now, lake effect snowfall is a possibility, especially earlier on. Typically, that's a November into December type thing. Usually slows down as those lakes cool down later on in the winter. So keep an eye out for that in the earlier portion of the winter. Huge snowstorms for the inland regions of the eastern states, from the Smoky Mountains northward all the way up through the Appalachian Mountain Range. We expect huge snowstorms to be a big possibility. And then worst of winter there along the mid-Atlantic and northeast coasts. Certainly with these nor'easters, I think that they could see very far above normal snowfall if things line up correctly. Anyway, I'm very sad that this is my final winter forecast for this year. I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey with me, as I've certainly very much so enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe, as we do upload these multiple times a year, and we do upload weather videos daily. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.